Welcome back, everyone. Oz here, and today I've got some r/AmIOverreacting for you all. As per usual, I'll be going through the post, giving you my opinion at the end, and I hope you do the same down in the comments below. And without further ado, let's jump right into it. Oh god, what is this username? 4FR41D underscore P4CK underscore 4661. Oh, wait, that's just leet speak. Afraid Pack 4661. Am I overreacting for refusing to let my dad move into our house after he made my wife cry during dinner? My dad, 68 male, has been struggling financially, and he asked if he could move in with me, 34 male, and my wife, 32 female. We discussed it and agreed he could stay temporarily if he respects boundaries. Well, on his very first night over for dinner, he started criticizing everything. He made a comment about my wife's cooking being too bland, then joked about how she let herself go. Since our wedding, my wife excused herself and cried in the bathroom. I told my dad his comments were cruel and uncalled for. He just shrugged and said he was being honest. After that, I told him he couldn't move in after all. Now he's calling me ungrateful. And my mom says I should suck it up because he's your father. But I can't put my wife in a position where she's disrespected in her own home. Am I overreacting for refusing to let him live with us? I can only assume that your mother and father are no longer married and that's why he's not staying with her. Ironic, or else she would be offering the extension for him to stay with her. Anyways, yeah, if he wants to, actually stay with you, he has to abide by the fact that he's currently staying under your hospitality and not to bite the hand that fucking feeds him. You're the ungrateful one? No. You offered him a place to stay in his time of need, and what does he do? He turns around and begins belittling everything that matters to you. He's an asshole. And he faced the consequences of his actions. He fucked around, he found out. Personally, if I were to put my little tinfoil hat on and think about what happened here, I think he's insecure. And because his son is able to financially help his father, he has to find little things to dagger and needle at so that way he feels like, well, at least I've got something going for me. I might be struggling financially, but at least my wife never let herself go. That's the energy it gives off. He's a fucking bitch. Good on OP for standing up for his wife. Good shit, man. Also, here's some comments that may or may not agree with me, but in all seriousness, I do think they add some additional context and expand upon my words even further. Boo Boo Kitty FHK. Not overreacting. He can be as honest as he wants and say whatever he wants to say, but that does not make him immune from consequences. It is so sad that a man gets to this age and just now is learning the concept to fuck around and find out. That's what I'm saying! He literally walked in and tried to take over. He did it on purpose to establish his dominance. He picked the most vulnerable person in the room and immediately zeroed in on her. This man is a bully. There is absolutely no reason for that honesty other than to hurt her. Your mother's opinion is completely invalid because it's not even any of her business to begin with. If they are still married, then that is her problem, and she should quit dumping her issues on other people. If they're divorced, then she shouldn't be butting in with her opinion anyway because it's not her business anymore. She also doesn't get to dictate your wife's comfort and level of responsibility for this. She's not entitled to make decisions and sacrifices on other people's behalf. If she's that concerned, she can do it herself. What the what? 3214 comments. Exactly this. Tell your dad he's right. You're not grateful for the way he treated your wife. He doesn't get to come into your home and start being nasty to your wife, who was being a kind and gracious hostess. No one asked for his vicious opinions and bad manners. People who spout off like this that hide behind the claim they're just being honest, ignoring the fact that no one asked to hear their opinions in the first place, and that what they say is in fact their opinion and not objective truth like they're pretending it is. Also, tell him he's the one who was ungrateful to both of you for allowing him to be a guest in your home, and to your wife for cooking him dinner. Tell him his power play backfired, and that he was a jerk and a bully, and he owes your wife a massive apology. But even if he does apologize, don't let him move back in. He'll resent being put in his place and find another way to take it out on your poor wife. Protect her and your peaceful home at all costs. Hunsnet457. Am I overreacting to my flatmate inviting his entire family to stay with us and expecting me to stay somewhere else? My flatmate, 30 male, invited his entire family to stay the weekend, Friday to Monday next month. 2 adults and 2 teenagers in a 2-bedroom apartment. He came to me to ask if it was okay. He'd already invited them and assumed that I would go and stay with my parents that weekend. I start a new job next month, so it'd need to be at the flat both the Friday and the Monday. So I said no, because it would mean traveling late Friday and traveling back on Monday early enough to come home and get ready for work and leave whilst they're still there. Also, I don't want to risk any problems or being late while I'm traveling at my new job. After I said this, I heard his mom on the phone talking about how I'm rude and disrespectful for not letting them stay. I didn't know my housemate was on speakerphone with her when he was talking to me. His phone was in his pocket. I tried to explain to both my housemate and his mom that it just wouldn't be feasible, even without the fact that I would literally be in the second week of a new job. Not that, in my opinion, it's fucking insane to try and fit 6 people into a 2-bedroom apartment, but they called me selfish and that I didn't have to be rude about it. Am I overreacting for thinking that this is really disrespectful, not only inviting them without asking me and expecting me to stay somewhere else, but creating a situation where I look like the bad guy to his mom? So, not overreacting, this is just definitely insane behavior and should not be tolerated, and you definitely should not just leave your home so his family can stay in your room, regardless of whether or not you're starting a job or not. Seriously. Like, it's his responsibility to find reasonable accommodations for his family, not for those quote-unquote reasonable accommodations to be asking his roommate to stay with his parents. Now, quick little tinfoil hat here. I think the roommate doesn't want his family to visit. I think they invited themselves over, and the roommate is trying to find a way to not have them visit. So, he says, well, my roommate's probably not going to do this, but we can ask him, and I can even have you on speakerphone for the conversation so you can hear his response, so you know that I'm not lying to you, so that way you don't think that I'm just trying to push off the visit. So then he goes and puts him on speakerphone and then, has the conversation with his roommate. Roommate turns them down, and now he gets to successfully push the blame from himself for not wanting his family to visit to the roommate. Sorry guys, my roommate just can't stay somewhere else for a little bit, so I guess you guys can't visit this month. Oh well. That's just a tinfoil hat theory though, that the roommate just isn't able to say no to his family, so he has to find other ways to tell them no. That makes sense to me in my mind with how this is laid out and what all is going on, but there is also just the possibility the roommate's an inconsiderate bastard. So, yeah, what do you think? CEO Soul Collector X. Am I overreacting for moving out after my roommate started charging me to use her kitchen? I, 25 female, have been living with my roommate, Jess, 27 female, for about a year. Rent is split evenly, and all shared spaces, kitchen, living room, laundry, are part of the lease. Last month, Jess started dating a guy who's a chef. Ever since, she's been super possessive about the kitchen. She told me she doesn't want me messing up the equipment because he cooks professionally and has been teaching her the right way to use the space. Then last week, she actually sent me a Venmo request for $50 labeled kitchen use fee after I cooked pasta. I thought it was a joke, but she said she's serious, that it's only fair since she spends more time cleaning it and I don't know how to handle high-quality cookware. I told her that's absurd, and if she keeps this up, I'll find another place. She said I'm overreacting and being petty. I've already started packing. Am I wrong here? If the kitchen's shared on the lease, as it is like 99.99999% of the time, then yeah, definitely not overreacting, especially if this just came out of nowhere. Seems like the Dunning-Kruger effect hit her in full swing, and now she believes that because she has a boyfriend who's a professional chef, that puts her on a similar quality of that, and therefore the kitchen is now a sacred place where her roommates have to spend money to use it because she's the only one here who properly knows how to use it. Honestly, send that Venmo request to your landlord and just see what he says, because this is definitely breaking lease terms, and I'm pretty sure he's not going to be happy about that. So yeah, I'd say do that as a parting gift if you're really set on leaving, but if you want to see what happens after you send it to the landlord, then go for that. But definitely don't pay this. Don't pay the $50 at all, because there is literally no way she can enforce that. Hurricane Scout. Am I overreacting? New housemate said she's a morning person. We're actually all morning people, but her morning starts at 3 a.m. 4 housemates in a shared house situation. New housemate moved in 6 weeks ago. We did as much due diligence as anyone can in this situation. Asked questions about lifestyle, cleaning habits, schedule, income. When we got to daily schedules, we told her we tended to be early to bed and morning people, most of us getting up between 6 and 7 a.m. and in bed by 10 p.m. on weeknights. She said that was great, and she also was an early to bed / early rising person. When she moved in though, she told us what that meant. She gets up to go to the gym at 3 a.m. every day, preferring it because the gym is crowded later in the day or in the evenings. The departure isn't quiet. It wakes up the entire house. She comes home around 4:45 a.m., where her golden retriever bounces around the house, chomps on squeaky toys, and generally makes a racket. She takes him out for a walk at 5 a.m. and comes back at 5:30, at which point he again bounces excitedly through the house, sometimes with and sometimes without squeaky toys, and she goes about her morning routine. Making breakfast, showering, watching YouTube, the routine finishes around 6 a.m. She leaves for work around 7:30 to 8 a.m. I've invested in sound paneling for my door and a white noise machine. My housemate gets up at 1 a.m. to put on noise-canceling headphones to sleep, because if she puts them on any earlier, the battery won't last through the housemate's morning routine. We're exhausted, sleep-deprived, and the new housemate hasn't offered anything in the way of an adjustment other than to blame how noisy the house is. Suffice to say, none of us had any idea 3 a.m. is what she meant when she said she was a morning person. Too long didn't read, is it overreacting to consider a 3 a.m. to 6 a.m. noisy morning routine obnoxious vampire hours rather than morning person? I have no idea how you would even begin to approach this situation because this is just incredibly inconsiderate. And my guess would be is the new roommate knows this as well. That's why they didn't reveal the fact of what time they actually wake up until after they were moved in. I also don't know if I would call this obnoxious vampire hours because I exist at these hours sometimes. About a third of the month. But the thing is that people who exist at these off hours know how to exist silently. You will never know that I'm awake if I'm on my off night owl schedule where I'm waking up at ungodly hours and going to bed when most people are getting home from work. And that's the thing, is that most people who wake up at these hours are normally considerate and exist with the knowledge that normal people don't live like this. So the fact that your roommate is being this inconsiderate and, by the sounds of it, when confronted, jumped right into excuses of how it's just a noisy house. I would say definitely just try to get all roommates on the same page and confront her together so that way she's aware of just how destructive her morning routine is. Because this is ridiculous and this is just entirely disrespectful, and part of me is honestly kind of left wondering if she knows how disrespectful and disruptive her morning routine is and that's why, she didn't tell you guys until after. But y'all should definitely not be making sacrifices and having to purchase things out of your own pocket to pretty much ensure that you can even attempt to get a good night's sleep. Definitely lead with a conversation and just see if she's willing to make any compromises. If not, then in a fucked up way, my guess would be if she wakes up at 3 a.m., she probably goes to bed around like 6 or 7. Maybe give her a taste of her own medicine if she refuses to actually come to the table and have a conversation and make compromises. But on an actually serious and productive note, what would you guys do in a situation like this and how would you approach this? ThinTap2989. Am I overreacting for wanting to leave my husband after what he did while I was caring for my sick mother? I, 25 female, and my husband, 27 male, have been married for 2 years, together for 5. We married young, but we're both financially stable and ready to build our life together. We just started trying for our first baby. 7 months ago, my mother was diagnosed with stage 4 pancreatic cancer. The doctors gave her 6 to 12 months to live. She lives 3 hours away in my hometown, and as her only child, I knew I had to be there for her final moments. My husband understood completely and encouraged me to go care for her. I moved back to my childhood home to help with her treatments, doctor's appointments, and the daily care. It was emotional and physically exhausting watching my mom deteriorate. I was sleeping maybe 3 to 4 hours a night, managing her pain medications and trying to make her comfortable. My husband and I talked every other day, and he seemed supportive of what I was doing. My mother passed 6 weeks ago, and I came home after handling the funeral arrangements and settling her estate. My husband was loving and supportive during the grieving process. We started seeing a grief counselor together to help me process the loss and strengthen our marriage during this difficult time. Last week, during what I thought was a healing conversation, he confessed that while I was caring for my dying mother, he had been seeing his coworker, Emily, for the last 4 months. He said he was lonely, and that I had been emotionally unavailable, even during our phone calls because I was so focused on my mom. I was completely shattered. While I was watching my mother die, holding her hand through chemo sessions and grieving the loss of my only parent, he was building a relationship with someone else. He waited until after the funeral, after I'd started grief counseling, to tell me, which means he was lying to me while I was planning my mother's burial. I'm staying at my best friend's house now. I can't even look at him. Both our families are saying I should forgive him because caregiver burnout affects the whole marriage. And he was grieving too, watching me go through losing my mom. They think divorce is too extreme given everything we've been through. But all I can think about is how alone I felt in those final weeks with my mother, and how he was actually with someone else the whole time. Am I wrong for wanting to end our marriage over this? Should I be more understanding of how my absence affected him? Comment from user MillA64. Sorry to hear what you've been going through. As a man, I find your husband's actions simply inexcusable. This wasn't a one-off fling, but a premeditated cycle of infidelity committed whilst you were caring for your mom. Family members, probably on his side of the fence, are insisting you forgive him. In my opinion, I don't think you should. I'm afraid that he has shown his true colors during a time of physical and emotional adversity, and has betrayed both you, your marital vows, and shattered your trust. It's your call, and it will take a lot of strength not only to heal from the loss of your mother, but to have to deal with this shadow of infidelity. I divorced a former wife for infidelity. I was the last to know, but when I found out, I gave her a chance to end it. She abused that last gesture, that olive branch, and at that point, I lawyered up immediately and divorced her. I was 23 at the time, married at 19 years old, divorced at 24. If I had my time again, would I do the same again? I think I would lawyer up immediately. No olive branch, no second chance, zero tolerance. You deserve to have a good adult man by your side who stands by you and is completely and unquestionably loyal to you. Take care, stay strong, and do whatever you need to do to preserve your peace in the coming days, weeks, and months. The thing is if he really did feel his wife was emotionally unavailable or felt that he was alone, guess what? He could have just taken a weekend to drive up and visit her, and to maybe help and take some strain off of his wife and spend some time with her, and just see what he could do to be by her side. So I don't believe for a second that he felt that his wife was being emotionally unavailable. I feel like he put no effort into even trying to open up to her or communicate what he was going through. Even if he wants to try to use the excuse of, well, I didn't want to open up to her because of everything she was going through. If that was the case, then you should have stayed strong, dude. Instead, you cheat on your wife, not just like as a one-off fling either, in a moment of just complete and utter weakness. This was 4 months. This was premeditated. His excuses and lies were preconceived from the get-go. I'm gonna be honest, I don't know how you two could come back from this, and if it's even worth even attempting to forgive him. Because even if you did decide that you're willing to give him a second chance, there's always going to be that shadow of infidelity. There's always going to be the feeling of not being able to fully trust him ever again, because in OP's lowest moment, this is what her husband did. In the end, it's her choice, and it comes down to whether or not she'd be able to even forgive her husband. I think that you should stick with your gut, and if you feel that this is something you want to end the marriage over, then you should do it, because that feeling won't go away. But with that, what do you think on this story? What are your thoughts, and how do you feel about this whole situation? Estimated dependent. Am I overreacting, considering divorcing my wife after she called my daughter trash? I've been married for 13 years. I have a 17-year-old daughter and a 12-year-old boy that we had together. Please keep in mind that my wife's mother is currently in the hospital with heart issues and may or may not have much longer to live. We don't know yet. With my wife dealing with possibly losing her mother, I had no problem cooking dinner when I came home after a 12-hour work shift. I even did laundry and dishes. I started getting on my son. He leaves his dirty dishes laying around, found some cups of spoiled milk in his room, so I yelled like any parent would do and took away his iPad until he can keep his room clean. I have always been the only one to punish him when he behaves badly. She did not like that one bit. She got an attitude and just started throwing insults at me. Fine, no big deal, I can take some jabs. But then she started attacking my daughter, calling her trash multiple times for no reason whatsoever. By the way, my 17-year-old is awesome. She had 2 jobs over the summer at the library and an ice cream shop. She has been accepted to Penn State and never badmouths anyone. Should I give the wife a pass because she may be acting out from losing her mother, or should I put my foot down and refuse to be with someone so verbally abusive towards my daughter? What do I do? Some additional, very important context. TurboSlut03 comments. Quote, so I yelled like any parent would do, end quote. Not any parent, dude. Everyone sucks here. Get the family to therapy and look up how to parent without yelling at your kids. OP responds, not really yelling, just being stern and maybe a few decibels over a normal conversation. And this isn't new. I've asked, super nicely. It doesn't stop. So yes, I raised my voice in frustration. I highly doubt that they needed therapy because I raised my voice. User Scranton Strangler responds, out of curiosity, how many times had your son been leaving the dirty dishes around? Like, was this the first time you said anything and went straight to yelling at him, or is this a constant problem? I only ask because it seems you somewhat favor your daughter, but that may just be my interpretation of what you've written in your post. Backwards smiley face. OP responds further, well, it's a constant issue. At this particular time, my daughter wasn't home. My wife berated her by calling her. The dirty dishes were in the living room, so it was definitely directed only at my son. I don't favor anyone. They're both my rock stars, and I'm a proud dad to both. They are both really good kids. So, father's dealing with a son who's leaving dirty dishes scattered around the house, not cleaning up after themselves, and it's been a constant thing to the point where milk is being spoiled in the cups. That's pretty gross. And in response to this, the daughter was called by her stepmother to be yelled at and called trash. That is an insane overstep on her part. And I certainly don't blame the husband for feeling this way, because this is beyond her grieving. This is just her taking aggression out and taking her pain out onto her stepdaughter. Or perhaps maybe after all these years, the mask is finally slipping and she's just letting her true emotions be known. In the end, the choice is OP's, but grief does not justify what she's doing to your daughter. This is inexcusable. And the fact that this kind of degradation wasn't even happening in private towards you, but directly to your daughter is honestly just unhinged and not okay. Forgany Loop. Or, in Leet speak, Agony Loop. Am I overreacting for canceling the family vacation I paid for after everyone kept complaining? I, 36 female, saved for months to take my family, husband, 2 kids, my parents, and my brother with his wife, on a week-long trip to the mountains. I booked the cabin, paid for most of the costs, and even planned activities. The entire time, no one stopped complaining. My mom said the cabin was too rustic. My brother complained about there being no nightlife. My dad griped about the food options, and my husband sulked because there wasn't good Wi-Fi. I spent the whole trip driving people around, cooking, cleaning, and trying to make everyone happy. On the 3rd day, after my sister-in-law made a snide remark about how I wasted money on the wrong place, I snapped. I called a family meeting, told everyone I was done, and canceled the rest of the planned activities. I said if they want entertainment, they could figure it out themselves. Now, everyone says I ruined the trip and made it miserable, but I feel like they ruined it long before I pulled the plug. Am I overreacting? Mango Design 0192 comments, you had the correct reaction. People do not realize the amount of money and energy one can put in planning and booking vacation. I understand there can be some small things not everyone is truly happy about, but it would not lead to people complaining all the time. Get over the small inconvenience and enjoy the place, the family time, the activities. You did not ruin the vacation. Your family ruined it. They could have been grateful for the fully paid vacation and the activities and shown some appreciation. You are right to call a meeting and demand they show respect. If they say that you ruined it, then they do not own up to their behavior and selfishness and lack of appreciation, thus lack of respect. Enjoy the time for yourself as much as you can. Switch to only doing what you want, when you want, and try to relax. I know it is really disappointing when people do not appreciate all the efforts you went through. So personally, I was hoping this would be an overreacting one. It is not though. OP is not overreacting. Once upon a time, maybe about a couple years ago, not going to give it an exact date for specific reasons, but there was someone in a friend group, and this person, without consulting anyone, decided to book a massive, just multi-$1,000 vacation with everyone involved, and did not tell us or let us help with expenses, and just kind of paid for it. We were all, of course, grateful and excited for it, offering to pay for activities, snacks, and that kind of stuff. But the moment that there was a little bit of a rocky relationship or a snag or a miscommunication that happened, they went on this massive tangent about how no one's grateful for how much effort they put in, how no one is excited for the trip, and how it just feels like they're being used as a cash cow because no one's chipping in for anything. But they wouldn't let us, and we were left trying to find something to pitch in for, like snacks and food. So, in retaliation over a very minor miscommunication, they canceled the trip for everyone, and forfeited their deposit and made that everyone else's problem. That they had to cancel the trip because of our actions and lost the deposit, and we're the ones responsible for that, apparently. So because of the negative experience and the title just immediately reminding me of that, I was kind of wondering if we would be able to get our hands on our first "yeah, you're overreacting" post, and God knows how long. But no, OP is perfectly being reasonable with how their family is acting, and perfectly understandable with how upset they are. Damn. Why does OP have to be a reasonable person? Why can't I have anyone to scrutinize? Oatmeal Bar 7950. Am I overreacting? Ex-husband's girlfriend demanding I change my name ASAP. I was married to my ex-husband for 4 years. I didn't change my name when I first got married because neither of us cared much. I only changed it after our daughter was born because I wanted us to share a last name. We divorced in early 2022, and I kept the last name because my daughter still has it, and again, neither of us cared much. Fast forward to now, over 3 years later, my ex has been dating someone for a while, and when I went to pick up my daughter, she came outside, shut the door, and said she needed to talk to me. She told me that her and my ex want to get married, but the only thing standing in the way is that I haven't changed my last name back. She said she thought it was very weird that I kept it in the first place and even offered to pay for my name change and insisted it would be super easy. I find it really odd that this is supposedly the only thing stopping them from getting married. I don't know why I, as his ex-wife, should have anything to do with their decision to move forward, aside from my connection to my child. I have a career and I am involved professionally in the community, so my name carries some weight beyond my marriage and divorce. It doesn't seem fair to me to change it just to appease someone else. I should mention also, found it offensive that they would offer to pay any fee associated with the change when my ex currently owes about $20,000 in unpaid child support. It feels like their priorities are wildly misplaced. I've never had issues with her, and I don't want to be combative since she's around my daughter sometimes, and I want to be sure I'm justified in my decision before responding. I was also completely caught off guard and in a hurry to pick up my daughter, so I didn't say any of this to her in the moment. I just told her I'd look into it. Am I overreacting for thinking this request is weird and out of line? Comment from user DiligentLab2717. Not overreacting. If X is telling girlfriend he can't marry her because you haven't changed your name, he doesn't want to marry her. Now, I think it's bullshit she's spouting and simply doesn't want to have the same name as his ex-wife. In that case, she can simply keep her own name. Tell X that girlfriend is not to speak to you again about anything other than your child in an emergency. All communication needs to come through X, preferably through a co-parenting app. You may want to consider informing X that all future in-person conversations will be recorded, especially if girlfriend is present. You want to keep your name because it's tied to your professional identity. That's a legit reason to not change your name. It's also a legit reason to want to have the same last name as your child. However, if you are willing to change your name, you demand your child gets your name instead of X's. It's not like he's much of a father given he's financially abandoned his kid, so why should kid keep his name? Kooky Article 2154 responds, "This. Call their bluff and say you'll only do it if you can also change your daughter's last name too. His ego won't allow it. And why should your daughter have his last name and not yours when he owes you $20,000 in unpaid child support?" Typical Mobile 90 responds further, "I think she's trying to give people the impression that your daughter is hers once they get married. In all reality, he could be put in jail for being a deadbeat who doesn't even support his kid. If the woman cares so much about your family, she would be contributing to her future husband's responsibilities by working off that huge debt they both owe you. You don't owe them a damn thing." And yeah, but the comment section pretty much handled both my theories perfectly, including the daughter one where she wants it to seem that the daughter is hers. But the other one I had is she's just making this up and is uncomfortable with sharing the same last name as his ex-wife and shut the door behind her because she wanted to try to have this conversation in private, not realizing the connection that you and your ex still had and the fact that none of you care about the last name situation. Except her, apparently. I'd say in full, just listen to the comments. Either just simply ignore her, require them to communicate through a co-parenting app, or call their bluff and, hit them with, yeah, I'll change my name, but my daughter's name has to be changed too. And see what their response is. Because honestly, this is a ridiculous request and shouldn't be entertained the slightest unless you want to get a chuckle out of it. Hey, welcome to the outro. Don't forget this whole thing is basically brought to you by GamerSupps. If you like caffeine, then I can't recommend GamerSupps enough. Use code Oz at checkout to support the channel. And I do actually use this product. It's replaced all other sources of caffeine for me because I feel good. It doesn't have any of that extra stuff that a pre-workout blend might have. It's with a couple of the extra things to make it so you don't crash as hard. It's good. I like it. Personally, if you really want a good flavor, try the Soda Pressing Pear or even the Dragon Fruit Punch. Those two are my personal favorites right now.